The 203rd edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been. There ever will be.
Nate Humphrey hands King Rice the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot. Good. Off the glove. Oklahoma calls timeout. But the game is over. The game is over. Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma. Been ready on his second attempt. That one is no good. They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores.
With 20 seconds left to play, goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63, 62, 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Brent Brown looking. Throw away to Worthy. 35. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship. Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul.
Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out the head. Long outside shot. Short rebound. It's over. And how about the Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
The Tar Heels are the national dadgum champions.
And that's what it takes when you big time games. You got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe. Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. It is a day that will go down in Carolina basketball history as an unprecedented day. A day that many of us will never forget. I know I certainly won't. I'm sure my co-host on the phone, Anthony Pagnotta, won't forget this day either. As this morning, head basketball coach, Hall of Famer, national champion, the reason why this podcast is named what it is, Roy Williams, retired. After 33 years coaching college basketball and 48 years coaching the game of basketball as a whole. This was something that started out as what we were hoping to believe as an April Fool's joke. And we quickly learned in the moments afterwards, this was not a joke. This is real. He is in fact retiring. He is no longer going to be coaching basketball at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. And I'm not the only one having a hard time processing this. I'm not the only one that got the news and got moved to tears. I'm not the only one that has reflected in the last couple hours what this man's meant to us individually, to the program, all of us that love Carolina the way it is. But so we're going to go through this as best we can. It's going to be emotional. I'm not going to lie to you. This will easily be the hardest podcast I've ever had to record. Tougher than the times we've lost to Duke or lost in the NCAA tournament or any of those. Nothing will ever touch what we have to go through as we discuss his retirement. So, buddy, I texted you right away. I texted you and just said Roy Williams just retired. And this is something that we knew was a possibility. We knew we've been on the back nine of his career for the last couple of years. A couple of weeks ago, after a season finale win over Duke, the man kissed the floor and later said in the postgame, it didn't mean anything. And then if you go back and you look at him in the postgame after Wisconsin, he also said some things that are maybe lead us to where we are now. So just your initial reaction to Roy Williams retiring.
This is the day of hell. There's just no other way to put it. This is one of the worst days in Carolina basketball history. You are losing your first or second greatest coach. There's no denying that. There's nobody else that's even close to qualifying the ratings that him and Dean are when it comes to this program. And he is now retiring. And it sucks. And there's just no other way to put it. I found out probably similarly to you, looking on social media, actually had one of the fellow board ops at the radio station that I work at here in Charlotte come and came in the room, told me that Roy Williams is retiring. I said, hey, you dumbass, today is April Fool's. That's a joke. He said, no, there's multiple people reporting it. I said, get the F out. There's no way. You must have just read it wrong or whatever. Went and looked on the timeline. Got it. And it's been confirmed by people that cover the teams pretty close. Guys like Brennan Moore, Inside Carolina confirmed it. And then you got the press release from GoHeels.com. This is real. Roy Williams is retiring. And Carolina's not guaranteed this have success going forward. I've been telling you for the last few podcasts that you needed to enjoy this while it was here. But guess what? It's over now. And to be really honest with you, how many Carolina fans can look themselves in the mirror? Half of them did it to themselves. You guys wanted this man gone? Well, guess what? Now we're going to find out what it's like to not have him play. So all those jackasses that said it's not for him to go, well, you know what? You shouldn't be sad today. You should be celebrating because you got your wish, and we're going to see how great this program is going to be. Because I don't think it's going to be all that great. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to be the same. I think it's going to take a while to get back to being the Carolina that we thought we could be. All those thoughts of potentially having a national championship contender over the next few years, unless you're going out and hiring a big name, out the window. Gone. It's that simple. So I think that people need to kind of take that into perspective when they think about how big this move is. This is a program-altering speech. And guess what? There's no Bill Guthridge right now on this staff that you're looking at and saying can navigate this team and still have success. This is also not the team that Dean Smith walked away from when he retired in the late 90s. This is the team that is going to need a lot of coaching to be able to be as good as a lot of people hold the Carolina standard to be. So, it's a tough game because you're losing a legend. You're losing a legend and a guy that we have, we've come to love because he's been the only basketball coach that we've witnessed here at North Carolina. And I don't know what it's going to be like to see somebody else on the sideline. I don't think I want to know what it's going to be like to see somebody else on that sideline. It's going to take me a long time to be able to adjust to this. That's pretty much all I got. It's just, it's one of the worst days of my life for sure.
Yeah, we're both really too young to be there when Dean Smith retired back before that 97-98 season. We were too young to be there when Roy Williams got hired in 2003, when the program was at a dire need for someone to come and save it. And that's not an exaggeration. The Carolina basketball program, the Carolina basketball family was broken. And Roy Williams, after turning down the job in 2000, came back home. And for 18 years, no one loved the university more. And he gave the program, the players, and the fan base everything he had for every single day he was on the job. And it's a really sad day. He likes to frequently say after season-ending losses, it's the most inadequate feeling he has, is when he doesn't know how to tell his players, he couldn't help them more and that their season had to go out that way. You remember how emotional he was after we lost the title game in 2016, after Joel Berry and Theo Pinson's careers ended in 2018. You look at even this year, this team wasn't all that great. They never were really competitive for a national championship, let alone an ACC title. And the man was just, clearly distraught after that season-ending loss and that press conference against Wisconsin. And for me as a podcast host, this is the most inadequate feeling I've ever had, because I've never once came behind a microphone talking about North Carolina basketball and didn't have anything to say. And that's where I am right now. I had to write an article that didn't even feel real as I was writing it. I wrote it in slow motion. It was just I was just putting words on a notepad. It doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem like it's we didn't think we were to this point yet. We knew we were getting there. We've known for the last couple years we were getting there. That's just part of life. That's part of him getting older. But a couple of reasons that led to this retirement, I mean, I think the first thing you got to look at is the fact that I think COVID taking him away from his family really bothered him, meaning that he's a devout family man. He's one of the rare coaches that could be really, really good in the profession of coaching and still be involved with his family. And this year, because of COVID-19, that was taken away. And I don't think that was he dealt with that very lightly. He's got a lot of young grandchildren that he didn't get to see. And I think he's accomplished enough to where it was okay for him to walk away. I think the new age of college athletics have really bothered him because he loves college. The impact that college had on him is what he's tried to have on every single one of the kids he's ever recruited and eventually played for. And I think seeing these guys willingly leave the program, like Walker Kessler and some other people, it really hurt him in a negative way because he really cares about those kids that he coaches. It's much more about what you do for me. It's a lot more about than just what you do on the court. It's off the court as well. And so I think there's just so many different factors that play into his retirement. I clearly, I've always said during this season, because this got really brought up after some tough losses where maybe it's time for him to go. We have to have those hard discussions. And I always thought in the back of my head that he'd never leave the program in a bad spot. So I'm going to believe that and think that if he thinks retiring is what's best for Carolina basketball, then I think the program is still in a good enough spot to withstand it. He also promised Dean Smith when he took the job back in 2003 that he wouldn't quit as early as Dean did. And Dean always said that, he quit at 66 years old, and that was a big mistake. He still had more left in the tank on the coaching aspect side of things. It was all the other things that being the head coach at North Carolina is what wore him down. So I also feel like we know how much he respects his mentor, how much he loves that man. So I don't feel like if he's retiring, he feels like he's retiring way too soon. One thing I do want to do, and it's probably a little corny, but Roy Williams is corny. My podcast is corny. Adam Lucas has been known to write the perfect words after tough big wins, tough losses. He puts Carolina basketball in writing that no other writer can. And I'm going to read his article about Roy Williams retiring, and I do apologize if I do choke up while reading it. He titled his article "A Life-Changing Love." It starts like this. I will never, ever forget the crowd at the Dean E. Smith Center on the night Roy Williams was hired by North Carolina on April 14th, 2003. Remember where we were then. Remember that it had been over a decade since a national championship, a decade since the Tar Heels had won the ACC outright, and that Duke had won 7 of the last 8 games in the series, including the Carolina defeats by 26, 29, and 25. Remember that reporters had made a habit of camping in the Smith Center parking lot to attempt to interview unhappy players, that barely enough alums returned to put together a full-court summer pickup game with the current team, that there were multiple players, core players, players that you think of some of your all-time favorites who were considering leaving Chapel Hill. And here came Roy Williams. He arrived that night in a car driven by Dean Smith, a crowd that had gathered at the Smith Center. There was so much uncertainty around Carolina basketball in those days that people just wanted to see it for themselves. It was largely students, of course, but there were also some normal fans, just longtime Tar Heels who wanted to be there to witness whatever was about to happen. Every car that approached Skipper Bowles Drive was greeted with anticipation and then subsequent disappointment. It was just a mere mortal. Then came the car with Smith and Williams. Grown men shrieked. The crowd chanted Roy Williams' name. It was as if there was members of One Direction's. Sorry, Coach. It was as if the members of the Beatles had arrived. Here was the man who had come to